in different countries and all over the world, being in the arts is definitely a privilege.
It is. It is. I'm a proponent. I'm a big arts music person.
Yes.
and I always believe in life there is arts and science. There are facts, but it's the art that makes it beautiful and packages it and makes it relatable. And the most complex numbers or diagram, whatever it is, can be told in a poetic way. And then that's I love that space. And when it comes to creative, it's always about creativity and commercial. Right? How, as an artist, how do you make a living with your art and yet succeed at creating a career out of the arts and music that you do? And that's something that you have been doing, well, I would say pretty much all your life.
Pretty much,
music has been a constant. On the theme of reinvention, how has that transpired when you were a young child? Let's go kind of way back, as a kid. Growing up, what was it like? Were there pivotal moments of reinvention that really stands out for you as you kind of journey back and forth?
Reinvention was never anything I sought, but it became, I think it was more of a natural progression of stages of life, which is I pay a lot more attention to now. I wanted to just quickly add before I forget,
go for it.
Yes, wanting to change and understanding the environment of how to get people to listen in the industry itself is hard. But consumption also constantly keeps changing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh.
And I was so enchanted by it, when it came to going from tape to CD. I grew up with LPs, vinyl records, which have this magic to it. And yet I didn't listen to enough music because I grew up in Singapore, right? So all I was fed was pop music. And I love pop music with a passion. I went to jazz music school. So they're all like, pop music? Yeah, fight me. I love pop music. How can one song appeal to the entire world?
Yes.
And it's magical, I think as I got older, so I started my journey when I was 15.
Wow.
My professional journey at 15. But I started writing when I was 8, 7 or 8. And it would be little things like my little sister couldn't sleep at night and I'd open an Enid Blyton book.
Enid Blyton, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Am I saying her name right? I can't
I think
remember
so.
anymore.
Enid Blyton or something
Enid Blyton,
like that. Yeah, I used to read
I would sing the short stories to put her to sleep. And then that became, I'll sing about everything that I do. And then I sing about situations and stories. And then I never saw myself as a songwriter. I always wanted to be an artist. And I slowly, after writing my first album, still didn't see myself as a songwriter. I was means to an end. There were no other songwriters I had to write for myself, right? No money to pay for songwriters. Okay, figure it out. But I've always been writing. I was not a talkative child. I would write things down, and that's how I would see my heart, see my brain, my thought process. And I think from there, I did Idol, and that was, a very big stage for me, and it left my career forward leaps and bounds. And I thought that was it. I was a pretty sickly child, and I thought I get to have my dreams at 16. I went to Australia to get my degree, and then I went to the US to get my music degree because my parents, typical Chinese parents, your first degree cannot be music. It is not stable and not reliable of a career. You can imagine, I've wanted to sing and be a singer since I was 2. They were very panicky. They had prepared for such a time as this to convince me otherwise. That I was all right, let me go ahead and pretend to do something else. I did mass comm, which only helped me in marketing my brand. And I was y'all think you clever. I cleverer.
Clever. Weave it back into where you want to go.
Correct. But that's the thing, too. I think when you're passionate about something, and I'm so blessed and lucky that I knew exactly what moved me and what motivated me from such a young age, that anything that I learned would always go back to how can I make this work for my music, and how can I sing for the rest of my life and try and make money from this, It was about survival and surviving well,
Yeah.
like enjoying my life.
Yeah.
And I think it's always kind of been about that.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I don't think I've lost sight of that too much. Maybe a little bit. Maybe I've become a lot about the work, you know, because I think when I was living in the US, it's not a novelty for someone to be a creative or for someone to be in the arts or in music. And so everyone does their own thing. It's individuality is celebrated because you can't rush creativity.
Yeah.
And yet in Singapore, coming back, the last 5 years have felt like 15 years because I've done so much.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was living in LA, thinking in a day I would get one thing done or two, maybe groceries included, clean my apartment.
Yeah.
That would be a different day. And it was a very intentional time, but I was like, how is it in one day in Singapore, I can do so many things.
Yeah.
And in LA, I do one or two things and I'm like,
Chill.
that's the day.
That's the day. All right.
That's it.
Yeah.
And feel fulfilled still. There's something about being in Singapore that, bringing it back to reinvention, that forces the needle forward, but you're not moving too far, if that makes sense. And it's a pattern I've noticed. Not that we don't get a lot of shit done in Singapore. So much shit gets done. Yeah. But I don't know if it's proximity or the fact that we're all running in place a little bit. You know, we're getting all the content, we're getting things done, but how does this relate to the rest of the world? Is it because we're so far from the world? Is it because when I lived in LA, it was a matter of going to a cafe and meeting a director for a TV show that was on a cable network or now on a streaming network? You know, you could just chance upon someone that could give you your big break. In Singapore, it's like you could make all this content. You could be a top influencer, but are you actually influencing the world? Yeah, maybe you get a lot of likes. Maybe you get a lot of interaction, but could you sell a product?
Yeah.
Could you make something and sell it and influence the world in your own way? I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah.
I think, but part of reinvention, I might need a second to remember it, but it was really interesting about how something about being like a creative leader or something like that means that you are figuring out how to do something in a slightly more unique way and convincing other people they should do that too.
Right.
It's either the definition for an innovator or an influencer.